My name is Dan. I'm 58 years old, and I've been married to Carol for just shy of 30 years. We met back in Bloomington, Minnesota, at a volunteer fundraiser at the old Methodist church. She was pouring coffee for the guests, wearing this colorful scarf and laughing at some guy's bad jokes. I remember thinking right then and there, she had that kind of energy, the kind that makes you believe again after a long winter. At the time, I was 29. I'd just lost my dad, and life felt kind of hollow. Carol brought something back. She made things warm. Safe. Within a year we were married, bought a small house with a sagging porch, and started the life we always talked about: kids, yard work, Target runs, fighting over which Netflix show to watch next. Real life stuff. We had our daughter, Sarah, then our boy, Matt. I worked in logistics, mostly supplying materials to construction outfits around the Twin Cities. Carol worked in accounting for a nonprofit. Nothing glamorous. But we had dinner together almost every night. We laughed. We had inside jokes. We'd been through layoffs, a miscarriage, cancer scare, all of it. And we stuck. That's what I thought, anyway. It was about a year ago that Carol's job changed. Her nonprofit signed a national partnership deal, and suddenly she was traveling. First, it was once every 2 or 3 months. Then monthly. Then it felt like she was gone more than she was home. Dallas. Seattle. Chicago. She'd come home with those little TSA tags still on her suitcase and stories about big donors, meetings, strategy sessions. She seemed tired, but excited. I was proud of her. At first. After the Atlanta trip, things started to feel different. She got back late on a Thursday night. Usually, she'd burst in the door, say something smart, hug me, kiss me, and then immediately start griping about how Delta lost her bag again. But not this time. This time, she walked in quietly. Dropped her purse on the kitchen island. Didn't say much. Didn't even take off her coat right away. I remember I was watching a game on mute, Vikings versus Packers, and I looked over at her and said, "Hey. Long trip?" She just nodded. "Yeah." "Long," she mumbled, not making eye contact. That was it. No smile. No hug. No questions about how the dog was or what I'd had for dinner. Just silence. I got up, walked over, tried to give her a hug. She didn't pull away, exactly, but she didn't lean into it either. Like hugging a coat rack. "You good?" I asked. "Just tired," she said, and started flipping through the stack of mail like it was urgent. The rest of the night wasn't much better. She barely touched the pasta I made. Spent more time on her phone than talking to me. Said she had to catch up on emails and disappeared into her office. When I passed by the room later to bring her tea, I saw the glow of her laptop screen, and her flinch. She quickly minimized something and turned toward me like nothing happened. That was the moment it hit me. Something was wrong. Not just tired wrong. Not work stress wrong. Wrong. The next few days felt like I was living with a ghost. She'd leave early in the morning, come back late, spend hours locked in her office, barely say a word. We'd always been open about our lives, shared everything, even the boring stuff. Now she was constantly hiding her phone, clearing her laptop browser. When I asked simple things, "Who was on the call today?" or "How's Sharon from work?" she'd answer in half sentences or not at all. I'm not a paranoid guy. Never have been. I believed in Carol. I believed in us. We'd built something solid, hadn't we? But now, little things started to stick out. The way her phone buzzed late at night. The new perfume she wore on trips but never at home. The way she smiled at text messages like a teenager. I started replaying old memories, looking for signs I might have missed. Was she pulling away for months and I was too dumb to see it? Did I stop being enough for her? No matter how much I tried to push those thoughts away, they came back. Louder. Clearer. I started looking at her differently. Listening for lies between the lines of every sentence. Watching her eyes, her hands, her pauses. Everything suddenly had weight. And yet, I said nothing. Not yet. Because some part of me still hoped I was wrong. But deep down, I already knew. A few more days passed. I went through the motions, woke up, made coffee, walked the dog, trimmed the hedges, checked the mailbox, even though I already knew nothing would be in there worth reading. Carol was still cold. Still distant. She barely looked at me when she left for work. Barely said goodnight when she got home. That Sunday, we were supposed to go to our friend's place for dinner. Rick and Dana. We'd been doing this little potluck thing with them once a month for years. But that morning, Carol came into the kitchen, poured herself coffee, and said, "Hey, I think I'm going to skip dinner tonight. I'm just not feeling it." I looked up from the newspaper. "You okay?" She nodded, but her eyes said something else. "Just tired. I have a ton of emails to catch up on." That same excuse again. Emails. Always emails. "I can tell them we'll both skip," I said. "We could just take the night, order something in, watch a movie or—" "No," she cut me off. "You should still go. You haven't seen them in a while." I studied her face for a second. Something about how quickly she shut that down, it rubbed me the wrong way. "You sure?" I asked. "Yeah. Go. Seriously." So I went. But I didn't stay long. Something didn't sit right. I kept checking my phone, pretending I had something urgent, and eventually told Rick I wasn't feeling great and headed back home. I parked a block away and walked. There was no good reason to do that. Just instinct, I guess. When I got to the house, all the lights were off except for the one in the upstairs hallway. The one by our bedroom. The driveway was empty, but Carol sometimes parked in the garage. I went around the side and checked the garage door. It was locked, but I could hear the faint hum of an engine cooling. Her car was inside. I stood there for a long time, staring at the door. My pulse was slow but heavy. Like a dull thud in my ears. I walked around to the backyard, past the swing Sarah used to love, and up to the sliding glass door. Curtains were half drawn. Inside, the living room was dark. Then I heard something. A low laugh. A man's voice. Followed by a hush. Then footsteps. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. A moment later, more laughter. Then her voice. Soft. Playful. Whispering. I stepped back from the glass. Not sure how long I stood there. Eventually, I walked away. Calm. Cold. Not heartbroken. Not yet. Just numb. That night, I slept in the guest room. Or rather, I laid in the guest bed staring at the ceiling. Every sound in the house felt louder. Her footsteps. The toilet flushing. The muffled giggle. The creak of the floorboard by our dresser. I knew those sounds. I'd lived in them. But now they felt foreign. In the morning, she acted normal. Like nothing had happened. Said she was going into work early, kissed me lightly on the cheek, grabbed her purse, and left. I just stood there in the kitchen, coffee going cold in my hand. That was the moment something in me changed. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't some emotional fling or midlife confusion. This was betrayal. Calculated. Rehearsed. She had lied to my face and thought I wouldn't notice. I started watching her. Not in a jealous way. In a deliberate, quiet way. I noted what time she left, when she returned. I listened to her calls through the wall. I checked the mileage on her car. I watched how she dressed on certain days. Heels only for donor lunches. Lipstick that stayed on even after she got home. And I waited. For proof. Something I could hold in my hand and say, this is real. It didn't take long. One Thursday, she forgot to log out of the family laptop. I wasn't snooping, at least not at first. I just wanted to check the weather. But her email was open. There it was. A thread of messages labeled, "And next time can't come soon enough." I clicked. And I read. Every word. Plans. Hotel bookings. Inside jokes. Pictures. Private things. Sentences that made me feel like the floor under my feet wasn't real anymore. I read them all. Then I saved them. All of them. To a flash drive I bought that afternoon at Best Buy. I didn't confront her that night. Or the next. I kept smiling. Asking how work was. Suggesting we take a weekend trip soon, just us. She nodded, but I could tell she was elsewhere. Always somewhere else. Fine by me. I was elsewhere too now. Somewhere colder. Sharper. I started making calls. To a lawyer. To a friend in real estate. To my cousin in HR at a company not far from where Carol worked. The plan wasn't clear yet. But I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to cry. I was going to take it all apart. Quietly. Neatly. Like unpacking a suitcase after a long, bitter trip. And when I was done? She'd have nothing left to pack. I spent the next week preparing. Not reacting. Not confronting. Preparing. People underestimate silence. They think if you're not screaming, you're not hurting. But sometimes silence is the loudest signal in the room. It's the sound of something boiling just beneath the surface, too hot to touch. I moved carefully. During the day, I went about my usual routine. Fixed the gate out back. Cleaned the gutters. Made small talk with the neighbors about the early frost. But at night, when Carol went upstairs to check emails or wind down with a bath, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop, laying the groundwork. First, I talked to Alan, my divorce attorney from way back. He handled my brother's ugly split a few years ago. I trusted him. I didn't tell him everything yet, just the basics. I suspected infidelity. I had some evidence. I wanted to know what the path looked like if I decided to go down it. He was calm, professional. Told me exactly what I needed: a timeline, financial records, backup copies of everything. Don't make accusations yet. Don't give her a reason to move money, to erase evidence. Play it cool. I was good at cool. Next, I called my cousin Jared. He worked HR for a major insurance company in Minneapolis, and he owed me a favor. Years ago I helped him get through a rough patch after his divorce. I asked him, purely hypothetically, how company reputations were affected when senior nonprofit officers were caught in affairs with donors or partners. He said, depends who finds out, and how loud they make it. I said, suppose there were emails. Hotel receipts. Maybe even travel charged to the company card. He let out a low whistle. That could be real bad. Especially if the board gets wind. I thanked him. That was enough for now. Lastly, I drove down to the storage unit we'd been renting since we cleaned out Carol's parents' place 3 years ago. She never visited it. I went under the excuse of dropping off holiday stuff. But what I really did was open a new, private unit 2 aisles down. One she didn't know about. I started moving things. Paperwork. Flash drives. Copies of all our financials. Photos. I even backed up everything from our family computer, just in case. Call it paranoid. I called it necessary. By Friday, I had a full picture. Carol was having an affair with a man named Marcus Tillman. I remembered him from a charity banquet last spring. Tall, silver hair, fake white teeth, that kind of smug charm you can smell across the room. He ran some private donor consultancy. Carol said he helped the organization land a 6-figure check from some out-of-state legacy fund. I remember shaking his hand, and he winked when he looked at Carol. At the time, I thought nothing of it. Now I knew better. Emails confirmed they started texting after that event. Then calls. Then a hotel in Des Moines, one in Denver, 2 in Atlanta. The last one? Booked under his name, but she used her card for the room service. That was the slip-up. They got sloppy. And now I had everything I needed. That night, I sat across from her at dinner. She'd made salmon, overcooked it like always, but I didn't complain. I ate every bite. She looked tired. Not the honest kind of tired that comes from hard work. A brittle, forced exhaustion, like someone carrying too many lies in a small bag. I asked her about her day. She gave vague answers. I asked if she wanted to see a movie Saturday. She hesitated, then said she had a fundraising call. I smiled. Said I understood. I let her lie to me again. Because the more she lied, the more control I had. Later that night, when she was brushing her teeth upstairs, I opened her work laptop and took screenshots of a Zoom invite. A private calendar event named M Retreat. It was next week. Thursday to Sunday. Location, our boutique hotel in downtown Nashville. I double-checked the name of the second attendee, and Marcus T. Perfect. I printed everything. Stapled it. Put it in a clean white folder. Labeled it tax docs so it wouldn't draw attention. I slid it into the storage unit, right next to my dad's old military box. Safe. The plan was simple. Let them meet. Let her think she was free and clever and untouchable. Then pull the rug. But I didn't want just a divorce. I wanted her life to fall apart the way she'd torn mine. So I made one more call. Lisa. Marcus's wife. I found her through his firm's website. Public bio, LinkedIn, cross-reference to Facebook, and there she was, Lisa Tillman, 52, 2 grown kids, PDA volunteer, golden retriever named Murphy. Classic suburban queen. I sent her a message, "Hi Lisa. My name is Dan. I think our spouses have been spending time together. I have proof. Would you be willing to talk?" She replied in less than 10 minutes. All she said was, a yes. Please. We scheduled a video call for Sunday afternoon. I didn't know what she'd say. But I knew this, we weren't just 2 betrayed people anymore. We were about to become allies. And once the 2 of us stood together, Marcus and Carol wouldn't know what hit them. Sunday came, and I was ready. I set up my laptop at the dining table, made sure the house was quiet, and clicked the Zoom link Lisa had sent. My hands weren't shaking. My voice wasn't tight. I'd already passed that stage. What I felt now was focus. Cold, deliberate focus. The call connected. Lisa appeared on the screen, sitting in what looked like a well-kept home office. Framed photos behind her, family trips, graduations, a wedding picture. She looked tired but composed. Like someone who had cried her tears already and was now here for business. Dan, she asked. I nodded. That's me. Thank you for reaching out. Same to you. There was a pause. We both knew what we were here for, but neither of us wanted to be the first to say it. So I broke the silence. My wife is Carol. She works in nonprofit development. I believe your husband, Marcus, is one of her donors or consultants. Lisa let out a humorless chuckle. Yes. That's how it started. I know. I leaned forward slightly. You know? I found messages. On his phone. 3 weeks ago. Some were deleted, but he missed a few. I confronted him. He denied it at first, said it was innocent, just a professional conversations. Then I showed him the photo. My chest tightened. Photo? She nodded. From a gala in June. He told me it was a business dinner. But someone else tagged them on Instagram, standing too close, her hand on his arm. She was wearing a red dress. I remembered that dress. Carol bought it for that trip. Said it was something different. I thought it looked good on her. Now I hated it. Lisa continued. When I showed him that, he cracked. Told me it was emotional. That he never meant for it to go anywhere. But you know how that goes. I nodded. Yeah. I do. I pulled the flash drive from my pocket and held it up to the camera. I've got emails. Receipts. Bookings. It wasn't emotional. It was physical. Repeatedly. Her eyes narrowed. How many? Atlanta. Des Moines. Denver. Nashville next week. She exhaled slowly. Well, then. I'm sorry, I said. I really am. You don't have to apologize. They should. Another pause. Then she asked, what do you want to do, Dan? That was the million-dollar question. But the answer had been clear to me for days. I want to destroy them, I said flatly. Not physically. Not crazy. Just take away everything they think they are entitled to. She didn't flinch. In fact, she gave a small nod. I've been thinking the same thing. We spent the next hour comparing notes. Turns out, Marcus had used his company card more than once to pay for hotel rooms. Lisa had screenshots of his calendar. Voice memos he left her by accident. He was careless. Too confident. Carol, on the other hand, was smart. Careful. But not perfect. She'd left enough breadcrumbs. Together, Lisa and I had the full picture. I proposed the outline of a plan. She agreed without hesitation. Step 1, let them go to Nashville. Let them believe no one suspects a thing. Let them enjoy their little bubble one last time. Step 2, on the final night of the retreat, expose them. Publicly. Lisa would send the emails to Marcus's firm's board of directors, anonymously. I would send a package to Carol's nonprofit, with copies of the receipts and the photo from Des Moines, plus an anonymous tip to the local press. Step 3, serve divorce papers the morning they return. Not with a fight. Not with a scream. Just silence. And signatures. Lisa looked me dead in the eye. I want him gone, she said. But more than that, I want him ashamed. You and me both. We agreed to coordinate the emails and delivery. We set up a shared folder for evidence, encrypted, locked. We promised to keep it quiet until the last moment. No warnings. No confrontations. No second chances. We ended the call with a quiet goodbye. No good lucks. No pep talks. Just two people, hollowed out by betrayal, turning that emptiness into strategy. That night, I sat on the front porch with a beer and watched the streetlights come on. It was quiet. Peaceful. Inside, Carol was on the phone again, walking around the bedroom like a teenager hiding from her parents. I didn't care anymore. I knew where she was going. I knew who she'd be with. I knew how it would end. And she had no idea what was coming. 3 more days. That's all I needed. 3 more days, and I'd take back control of my life. Not with rage. With precision. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't loud. It's quiet. It's patient. And when it finally hits, it leaves nothing standing. The morning Carol left for Nashville, it was raining. A slow, steady drizzle that turned the sky the color of old dishwater. She stood by the door, suitcase in hand, umbrella hooked around her wrist, phone already glued to her palm. "Flight's at 11, she said, adjusting her scarf. "I should be back Sunday night, unless the board decides to extend the planning session." I nodded. "Travel safe." She hesitated a second, then leaned in and gave me a quick kiss on the cheek. "The kind you give your accountant. Not your husband." "Love you," she added quickly. I smiled. "Sure." She didn't notice the change in my tone. Or maybe she did and chose to ignore it. The door closed behind her. And that was the last time I saw her as my wife. I gave it an hour, enough time for her to get to the UP. Then I opened my laptop, signed into the shared folder Lisa and I had created, and uploaded everything. Emails. Screenshots. Travel records. Carol's work calendar. Copies of text messages I'd retrieved from her iCloud backup. All catalogued, timestamped, clear as day. I'd already written the letter. To her board of directors. "I am a concerned individual with knowledge of inappropriate conduct by a member of your leadership team. I believe Carol Matthews has engaged in a prolonged and unethical relationship with an external donor representative, Marcus Tillman. Attached you will find documentation that supports these claims." No emotion. Just facts. Lisa had written one too. Hers was addressed to Marcus's firm's compliance office. We agreed to hit send Saturday evening, right around 7 p.m. Nashville time. That's when we confirmed they'd be at the hotel bar after their final strategy session, according to Carol's calendar. It would be their last private evening. Perfect. But we weren't done. Lisa had one more idea. Bold. Sharp. "I want them to find out together," she said on our final planning call. "No secrets. No denials. I want them cornered." She had a friend in Nashville, an attorney, who agreed to deliver the divorce papers directly to the hotel. Not to their room. To the bar. Public. Efficient. Savage. We scheduled it for 7:15. I spent Saturday afternoon prepping my end. I wasn't nervous. If anything, I felt focused. Like a man setting the final tile in a floor he'd been building for weeks. At 6:55, I sat down at my desk. The rain had returned. Harder now. It beat against the window like a countdown. At 6:58, Lisa sent me a text, "Ready?" I replied, "Go." At exactly 7 o'clock, I hit send. The email vanished into the digital ether, carrying with it the truth. Pure, unfiltered, undeniable. At 7:04, Lisa's went out too. Then we waited. By 7:17, she texted again, "Delivered." I stared at those 2 words for a while. Delivered. There was no going back now. I closed my laptop, stood up, walked to the kitchen, and poured myself a drink. Not to celebrate. Not to drown anything. Just to mark the moment. Somewhere in a Nashville hotel lounge, Carol had just looked up and seen a man in a navy blazer say, "Are you Carol Matthews? You've been served." And Marcus? He was probably turning pale, wondering who else in the room knew what those envelopes meant. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt clean. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt like I wasn't walking through someone else's story. This was mine now. Sunday night, around 10, I heard the garage door open. I was sitting on the couch, the TV on mute. She walked in slowly. No suitcase. Just her purse. Her face was pale. Her hair was a mess. And her eyes, those sharp, calculating eyes, were wide with something between panic and disbelief. She didn't speak. I waited. Finally, she said, "You knew?" I nodded. I knew. Her lip quivered. For how long? Long enough. She looked around like she didn't recognize the place. Like the house was no longer hers. "I didn't expect," she began, but her voice cracked. "No," I interrupted. "You didn't. That's the problem." She collapsed onto the armchair, hands shaking. "They're putting me on leave," she said. "The board's doing a full review." I didn't answer. "Marcus's wife, she." "I know," I said. "We've been talking for weeks." She blinked. "You, what?" I reached out to her. "She's smarter than you gave her credit for." She buried her face in her hands. "Jesus, Dan. Why didn't you just yell at me? Why didn't you just kick me out?" "Because that's what you expected," I said. "And you don't get to control how this ends." She sobbed into her palms. I didn't comfort her. That part of me was gone. After a few minutes, she looked up again. "Is this it? Are we really done?" I stood. Walked to the hall closet. Pulled out the envelope with her name on it. Divorce papers. Signed. Filed. Official. I handed it to her. "Yes," I said. "We are done." She took the envelope with trembling hands. I turned and walked upstairs. Left her sitting there in the living room, surrounded by the wreckage she created. I didn't slam the door. I didn't raise my voice. I just ended it. Because some betrayals don't deserve closure. They deserve consequence. The house felt lighter the next morning. She was gone. I didn't hear her leave, no door slam, no final speech. Just quiet. I woke up, came downstairs, and found the envelope I'd given her sitting on the kitchen table, along with her house keys and the garage opener. There was also a note. Not a letter. Just a torn piece of paper. It said, "I'm sorry. Carol." I read it once. Then I tossed it in the trash without a second thought. I made coffee. Sat on the porch with my mug. The air was cool, sharp with that late autumn bite. The kind of cold that clears your head. I should have felt something. Relief. Regret. Bitterness. But all I felt was space. For the first time in years, I had room to breathe. I didn't have to wonder where she was, who she was texting, what lie she was going to serve me that night. That part of my life, the guessing, the second guessing, was over. Around noon, Lisa called. She cleaned out half the closet, she said. Left her wedding ring on the kitchen counter. Same here, I replied. Except mine came with a note. We both laughed, dry, humorless. She never even said goodbye to the kids, Lisa continued. Told them she was going on a retreat, and now I'm the one explaining why Dad's not coming home. You tell them the truth? Not yet. They are still too mad to hear anything. I got it. That part was messy. Mine wasn't much different. Sarah had called the night before, worried. She'd seen something online. One of those local non-profit gossip accounts had posted about Carol being temporarily suspended pending investigation. I hadn't planned on telling her yet. But when your daughter calls crying, asking what's going on with her mom, you don't lie. So I told her. Everything. At first, she didn't believe me. Then she did. Then she hung up. She hadn't called back since. I wasn't angry. Just tired. This kind of betrayal doesn't end with one person hurt. It rolls out in waves: spouses, kids, friends, colleagues. Everyone gets soaked. That afternoon, I went to the storage unit. The one Carol didn't know about. I unlocked the door and stood there for a minute, just looking at the shelves. The files. The flash drives. The quiet evidence of a life unraveling. I pulled out the box labeled Final. Inside were copies of the divorce filings, documentation of the affair, and a sealed envelope addressed to the board of Carol's nonprofit. I didn't need to send it. The first wave had already hit. She was suspended. HR was doing an internal audit. The donors were expressing concern. She'd built her career on trust. On being the stable one. The moral one. Now she was radioactive. I left the envelope where it was. Insurance. In case she tried to spin this into something else. By the end of the week, the legal team emailed me confirmation, everything was filed. The process had started. If she didn't contest anything, we'd be finalized by the end of the month. She didn't contest. She signed every page and sent it back. I didn't hear from her again. No calls. No emails. No desperate "I miss you" texts. Nothing. And that silence? That was the real apology. A week later, I sat down with Sarah. She came over, hesitant, guarded. I could see the confusion in her eyes. The tug-of-war between love for her mom and anger at what she'd done. I didn't know who to believe, she said. You don't have to pick sides, I told her. You just have to know the truth. So I showed her. Not everything, but enough. The messages. The receipts. The cold math of betrayal. She cried. Then she hugged me. Why didn't you just leave her? She asked. Why wait? I smiled. Not bitterly. Just knowingly. Because leaving would have let her control the story, I said. I needed her to understand what it feels like to lose everything. Not in a moment. But slowly. Piece by piece. It wasn't vengeance. Not exactly. It was justice. By the end of the month, everything was done. The paperwork. The property split. The accounts divided. Carol kept her car, a small savings account, and whatever dignity she could salvage. I kept the house. The name. And my peace. Lisa and I kept in touch. Not romantically. Just allies. We texted now and then. Sent each other updates. On the day her divorce finalized, she sent me a photo of an empty closet with the caption, "A clean slate." I replied with one word, "same." Life moved on. I went back to cooking dinner without suspicion. Watching TV without checking the time. Sleeping through the night without wondering who she was with. And I started to feel like myself again. Not the version she left behind. The version I forgot I could be. It's been 6 months now. The house is still mine. Same porch. Same crooked mailbox. Same coffee maker that groans every morning like it's too old for this world. but everything inside feels different. Lighter. Quieter. Honest. I got rid of a lot of stuff after Carol left. The photos came down first, not the ones with the kids, just the ones where we were smiling, pretending. I packed them in a box and stored them in the garage. Haven't touched them since. Maybe one day the kids will want them. Maybe not. I painted the bedroom. New color. Deep gray, clean, no memories in it. I even bought new sheets. I know that sounds small, but you'd be surprised how heavy fabric can feel when it's holding 30 years of lies. The nights are quiet now. Sometimes a little too quiet. But I don't mind it. Quiet isn't lonely. Quiet is honest. And after living in the middle of someone else's fiction for so long, I'll take honest every time. I see Sarah and Matt regularly. It took a while, but we're good now. Matt came over last weekend to help me fix the shed door. We didn't talk about her. Didn't need to. He knows enough. I think that's how he wants it. Sarah visits more often. Brings me casseroles I don't need and updates me on her latest dating disasters. She's careful with her words now. Softer. Protective. Like she's afraid I'll break if she says the wrong thing. I won't. I'm past that. A few weeks ago, I ran into an old friend, Mike, from back when the kids were still in Little League. We got coffee. Talked about work, kids, the usual stuff. Then, just before we left, he asked, "You ever think about dating again?" I laughed. It wasn't bitter. It was real. I don't know, I said. Not yet. Maybe not ever. He nodded. Fair enough. Just don't lock the door forever. You're still breathing. That means something. I've thought about that a lot since. About how you survive things. Not with big declarations or dramatic exits, but with quiet mornings. With steady hands. With doing the dishes even when nobody's watching. Carol, as far as I know, moved in with her sister for a while. Word got around that she resigned from the nonprofit for personal reasons. Nobody bought it, but nobody pushed either. People always whisper when they don't know what to say. Last I heard, she was applying to smaller organizations out of state. I assume she's trying to rebuild. Good for her. Let her start over. That's the thing about people like her. They think reinvention is redemption. That changing locations or titles erases what they did. But you don't escape who you are. You just carry it into the next chapter and hope nobody reads the first one. And me? I'm fine. Better than fine, some days. I get up early. Walk the dog. Brew strong coffee. Read the news like it matters. I go to the hardware store just because I feel like it. I make dinner for one and don't feel sorry about it. I sleep in the middle of the bed now. No secrets next to me. No phone buzzing with lies. Sometimes, I drive out to the lake and just sit there. Watch the water. Let the wind hit my face. And I think about everything that's happened. Not with anger. Not even with regret. Just understanding. Carol made her choices. And I made mine. She chose deception. I chose clarity. She chose to build a fantasy on someone else's back. I chose to burn it down and walk out clean. If you'd told me a year ago that I'd be here, alone, divorced, starting over, I'd have laughed. I thought I was past new beginnings. Past shaking the snow globe of life and watching everything settle again. But maybe that's the point. Maybe peace isn't something you find. Maybe it's something you make. One clear, hard decision at a time. I didn't get revenge in the way most people expect. I didn't scream. I didn't throw things. I didn't ruin her with gossip or drama. I just exposed the truth. And let it do the work. Sometimes, that's all you need. Truth. Silence. And a door that closes behind you, soft, final, and free.